From the moment I saw this movie back in 2015, 10 years ago now, I knew something felt off. But at the time, nobody seemed to be talking about it. I checked out reviews from my usual go-to critics, and all of them gave good analysis and fair points. And while they covered things like potential, cast, and overall quality, nobody addressed this particular glaring issue. Since I didn't have a personal mini channel to rant about things back then, but do now, here we are. When this movie came out, the hype was unreal. Expectations were all-time high. Back then, we didn't know Disney sucked yet. The movie was written by Lawrence Kasdan, a veteran who worked on Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. And that seemed promising, except it's clear that studio had their hands all over this. Instead of using the guy to map out the full trilogy, they played it movie by movie, which led to massive continuity problems and conflicting styles. Truly, never an industry has seen this kind of poor planning and execution. A mess of this magnitude is one for the history books. Now, you might say that original trilogy was also made without a clear roadmap, and that's true. But back then, they were working in the uncharted territory. They didn't expect Star Wars to become a massive hit. The sequels were made on the fly, and they still made a good job. Disney, on the other hand, had decades of hindsight, a massive budget and unlimited resources, and they still managed to mess it up. But that's all history now. Let's talk about the Force Awakens itself. This movie was unlike anything I've seen before. It wasn't a straight-up sequel, but it wasn't a full reboot either. It introduced new characters and clumsily delved into this new, undefined story. But also, it leaned heavily on nostalgia and fanservice, bringing the entire crew we once knew and loved, but again, not doing too much with them. It played things safe, rehashing old and better stories while also trying to start something new. The result was this weird, clunky mix of where nothing really landed the way it should have. The movie tried to be a soft reboot, but not. That was so strange. I wouldn't mind it either way, if done right, but pick a thing and stick with it. And then there is Luke Skywalker. Supposed to be a major presence, ended up being nothing. The way they handled him was a betrayal on a level that deserves its own discussion. Never have I seen such an iconic character treated with so little care. It was just sad. Then we had yet another desert planet. A female Luke, because woke, I don't know. A brash, hotshot pilot filling the Han Solo role, and then Finn. Now, I don't want to be mean and say he was a diversity token, but let's be real. His character felt like a checkbox being ticked. And the worst part? John Boyega is a great actor, and Finn could have had the most interesting arc in the entire movie. Instead, they just sidelined him. And let's talk about the whole romance thing, or rather, the complete lack of it. This movie was so sterile. They hinted at Finn and Rey, then backed away. They hinted at Finn and Poe, maybe. Then again backed away. It seemed like they wanted diversity points, but also didn't want to commit to anything that might hurt their global market appeal. So instead, they just did nothing, which again makes it extra sad and hypocritical. And I'm not saying here I crave for the gay love story in Star Wars, for the sole reason that I'm not gay, but but if tastefully done, it would bother me less than this sort of halfway progressivism we see from the Disney all the time. So instead, we got this weird corporate half measure. Disney wants credits for being progressive, but they are too afraid to actually take risks. This always happens when greedy corporations and deprived Hollywood elites try to preach to their audience of how to live their lives. Hey, nobody asked. One of my biggest issues with this movie was how it handled the world building, or rather how it didn't. The previous movies had left us with a victorious republic and defeated empire. That was the end of the story. But instead of exploring what came next, they just retconned everything. Suddenly, the empire is back, but now it's called the First Order. The rebels are back too, but they are called the Resistance. There was a potential of reversing the roles. Powerful republic that deals with Sith dissidents. Maybe after the fall of the Empire, some planets rejected the Republic and wanted a more authoritarian rule. Maybe the First Order was a smaller but growing faction gaining traction among the disillusioned systems. Maybe several planets and their rulers rejected the Republic and their weak, liberal ways and formed their own alliance, the First MAGA Order. Maybe the Republic was too stretched thin to stop them. Something. But nope, it's all back, baby. The mighty Empire and the brave rebels. The evil disfigured guy as the Emperor, and the female Luke Skywalker that doesn't need help from anyone, especially men. Evil henchman with a mask, but this time he's hot, and the round version of R2-D2. Fresh young pilot and the comic relief black guy. They just wanted to bring this story back in the old and familiar setting the fans are comfortable with, because fans wouldn't be able to process anything new. And this is the biggest problem. If The Force Awakens was mostly a soft reboot, what was the second movie supposed to be? Nobody seemed to think that far ahead, and they should have. That's a $4 billion franchise in your hands, gentlemen. Assuredly, you could get one competent writer. Hollywood is full of those. But no, they just did mostly a soft reboot, introduced a bunch of new characters, and then just handed the franchise to some guy. Which was a bold choice, I'll give him that. In some ways, I respect Rian Johnson. He had a vision, but the problem is, if you're going to deconstruct Star Wars and subvert expectations, you better have something of greater value to offer instead. And he just didn't. Then they brought back J.J. Abrams, who panicked and did everything Johnson did, and crammed 2 movies worth of material into one messy edit. The lack of planning and consideration for the money, for the fans, and for the entire artistic vision is something that I still can't believe it happened to this day. And who was to blame? It's easy to point fingers at Kathleen Kennedy, and sure, she made some questionable decisions, but this goes beyond one person. Disney became too big for its own good. They are no longer the creative artistic studio, but a major corporation that cannot afford risk of failure for the sake of creativity, but somehow they still manage to fail in both. They somehow manage to be overly cautious and completely reckless at the same time, which is an accomplishment by itself. And speaking about J.J. Abrams, the ego on that man. I mean, yeah, I'm a great director, multi-millionaire and celebrity, but you know what else I'm gonna do? I'm gonna be a writer. No, you won't. And why would you even want it? Isn't being a top-tier director good enough? Steven Spielberg didn't push to write his own movies. Being good in something also means knowing what you're bad at. It's the same thing with Johnny Depp. He has a rock band, Bro, you are Johnny Depp. Band is for young people that wanna get laid. Isn't being Johnny Depp enough? So that's it. The Force Awakens isn't a bad movie, it's just there. Wasted potential. Shape of things to come. Thank you for your time and see ya.
I can't